keep telling you guys, the takeover is here. Caitlyn Clark, brand new commercial, fire. Brand new commercial, fire. She is working off the floor, booked and busy. Y'all keep talking about who's doing this and who's doing that. Nobody doing it bigger than CC right now, man.
Caitlyn Clark just... Okay, this is wild. Mark just dropped another commercial with Dick's Sporting Goods, and the internet is completely losing its mind over her prep for next season. Her off-season seems even crazier than when she was actually playing, which has everyone buzzing about massive endorsement deals, the whole rest versus grind culture debate, and if she's about to come back and absolutely dominate even harder. But hold up, some people aren't too thrilled about the massive attention gap that's still happening. So, what do you think? Should athletes prioritize rest or maximize their earning potential during the off-season? Let me know your take down in the comments. Let's dive into how Caitlyn Clark's off-season is basically turning into its own whole show. Because apparently taking time off just isn't a thing when you're the most marketable player in women's basketball. She just dropped another commercial, this time for Dick's Sporting Goods. And while it's got fans absolutely hyped for her return, it's also sparking some serious questions about whether she's actually getting the rest she desperately needs after the grind of last season. The ad shows her working out on what looks like a high school court, probably to symbolize her journey's starting point. And honestly, it's shot beautifully, with all the top-tier production you'd expect from a huge brand partnership. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a random promo. This is part of a bigger pattern where Caitlyn's off-season is just as jam-packed with obligations as her actual season was. We're talking photo shoots, commercials, brand deals, appearances, and so many promotional commitments filling her calendar that people are genuinely asking, when is she supposed to rest and recover? Remember, last season physically wore her down, even causing an ear injury that hurt her performance late in the year. Everyone agreed she needed this off-season to properly rehab and come back stronger. But instead, it looks like she's just traded basketball games for commercial shoots.
Focused up and rehabbing and training. You think she's not getting ready to humiliate these ladies on the floor next year? They got away with one this year. They got away with it this year. It's not gonna...
Here's the crazy part. It's not looking like she's going to get that rest next year either. The real irony is that one of the big criticisms of Caitlyn last season was that she literally never stopped working. We heard stories about her being in New York for a promotional event, and instead of taking a much-needed day off, she'd bring a trainer with her and work out for hours. Now that kind of relentless mentality, it's admirable in a way because it screams dedication and an insane work ethic. But here's what's really happening. It's also super problematic. Because rest is just as crucial as training when we're talking about long-term performance and preventing injuries. Seriously, your body needs time to actually recover. Your mind needs a break from that constant intensity. And let's be real, burnout is absolutely a real thing, even for the most driven athletes out there.
And if you thought this was going to be a nice, calm off-season for her, it does not seem to be the case. It does not seem to be the case that is going to be a calm off season off the court, because it genuinely seems like it is. It's equally as busy as last year.
And get this, the 8-month off season in the WNBA is actually a total luxury compared to what she dealt with in college. Back then, you'd maybe get 3 or 4 months off and then boom, you're right back at it. But in college, the competition level meant you could kind of coast through non-conference play and gradually get into game shape. Iowa could basically cruise through early season games without Caitlyn having to go full intensity every single night. But here's the kicker. In the pros, there is no coasting whatsoever. I mean, you're facing players like Ryan Howard, full court pressing you in game 2. You're dealing with Natasha Cloud and the Liberty's insane defensive intensity from day one. There's no easing into it, which is exactly why that 8-month break should be used to actually recover, instead of packing every single week with promotional obligations.
Obviously, it was a massive bummer when Caitlyn Clark missed as much of the season as she did. It still feels like a massive bummer. I think that image of her with the towel over her head is entrenched in the minds of many. Just sadness, right? It's like the end of Empire Strikes Back or something. But after that, you need Return of the Jedi. And one thing I've been thinking about and seeing a little bit when it comes to the campaigns that have rolled out around Caitlyn are how they could really coincide with the comeback.
Now let's talk about the commercial itself. It's actually really well done, showing Caitlyn absolutely grinding in what looks like a super authentic gym. Definitely not some fake, overly polished studio. The Caitlyn's Court branding tells us Dick's Sporting Goods is trying to build this whole narrative around her journey and her deep connection to the game at its true grassroots level. And honestly, that's genius marketing, because it taps into her every person appeal. Even though she's one of the most talented players on the planet, she's not some untouchable superstar. She's just there, putting in the work, just like kids watching at home might do. But here's the real question that comes up behind the scenes. How much is Caitlyn really prioritizing her physical recovery? She's constantly visible at fever events, doing these commercial shoots, keeping up her massive social media presence, and fulfilling a ton of partnership obligations. All that? It's phenomenal for her bank account and her brand. But is it actually good for her body and her mental health? Think about it. There's a reason why professional athletes in other major sports literally take actual vacations and disappear from the public eye during their off seasons. They get that recovery isn't just physical. It's totally mental too. Of course, we can't ignore the financial side of this because let's be real. Caitlyn is making absolutely absurd money from endorsements, especially compared to her WNBA salary. Her Nike deal alone is worth more than she'll make in multiple years of playing professional basketball. So when Dick's Sporting Goods calls with another commercial opportunity, saying no to that check is incredibly tough. Her playing career will only last so long, maybe 10 to 15 years if she stays healthy and performs at an elite level. So maximizing her earnings during that prime window makes total sense from a business perspective, even if it means potentially compromising her on-court performance. Honestly, the criticism that she needs to be in the gym more is completely backwards right now. Last season actually showed she was in the gym too much, not too little. She was relentlessly working out, never taking proper breaks, and pushing her body far beyond what was sustainable for an entire season plus playoffs. Those stories about her bringing trainers to New York for hours-long workouts when she was supposed to be doing promotional appearances, that just screams someone who doesn't know how to turn it off. That intense mentality helped her become amazing, but it might also be what ultimately limits her longevity if she doesn't figure out how to balance that work with real recovery. Comparing this to her college experience is key, because at Iowa she could kind of get away with that approach. The competition level allowed for some necessary coasting, and the shorter season meant she didn't have to maintain peak performance for as long. But the WNBA is a completely different beast. 34 regular season games plus playoffs against the absolute best players in the world, many of whom are older and much more experienced at managing their bodies through a long season. Caitlyn is learning that lesson the hard way, and hopefully this off-season is actually giving her the time to implement better recovery strategy. The fact that we haven't seen a fully healthy Caitlyn Clark since September 2024 is absolutely wild when you really think about it. That's 14. The last time fans saw her at full strength was when she was dropping 27-point triple-doubles against the Sparks, or throwing up 25 and 9 against Connecticut, practically willing the Fever to a playoff upset. That version of Caitlyn Clark is what everyone's dying to see again. But it's not going to happen if she doesn't actually rest and let her body truly heal. The Team USA opportunity coming up is huge because it'll be the first time in almost a year that people get to see her in a competitive 5-on-5 setting at full health. But that's assuming she actually uses this off-season to get healthy rather than just running herself into the ground with even more promotional obligation. If she shows up to Team USA camp still dealing with lingering issues from last season, that's a serious problem. But if she actually takes the time to recover and shows up at 100%, the entire basketball world is going to remember why she's been the most talked about player in women's basketball for the last 3 years. This Dick's Sporting Goods commercial is also super interesting from a marketing standpoint because it keeps Caitlyn relevant during the off-season when the WNBA isn't even playing. Most WNBA players disappear from public consciousness between October and May, but Caitlyn is maintaining massive visibility through partnerships like this. That's incredibly valuable for her personal brand, and for the WNBA as a whole because it keeps fans engaged and thinking about women's basketball, even when there aren't any games to watch. But again, there's a real cost to that constant visibility if it comes at the expense of proper rest and recovery. The wildest part of all this is that Caitlyn Clark has probably already blown past her own wildest dreams in terms of what she's accomplished. UConn didn't recruit her, she wasn't getting Team USA opportunities early in her career. People seriously doubted if her game would even translate to the professional level. And now, she's the most marketable player in women's basketball, with endorsement deals that absolutely dwarf anyone else's in the league. She's completely changed the conversation around the WNBA and brought mainstream attention to women's basketball in ways that have never happened before. That's already a success story beyond what most athletes ever achieve. But here's the thing. Success creates its own brand new pressures. Now that she's reached this insane level, there are huge expectations to maintain. Brands are desperate for her in commercials because she moves product and generates massive attention. The Fever desperately need her to be their franchise player and keep those tickets selling. Fans want to see her absolutely dominate and break record. All of those competing interests create a situation where taking time off just feels impossible, even though it's absolutely necessary. Learning to say no and prioritizing her health is going to be one of the biggest challenges of her entire career. The coaching change with the Fever might actually help with this, though. New coaches often bring fresh perspectives on rest and recovery. And if the Fever's new staff understands that Caitlyn was overworked last season, they might implement much better load management strategies. That could mean fewer minutes during certain stretches of the season, more strategic rest days, and better monitoring of her physical condition throughout the entire year. All sports have gotten way smarter about this stuff recently, and hopefully the Fever are paying close attention. The reaction to this commercial also clearly shows just how invested fans are in Caitlyn's success. People aren't just hyped about the commercial itself. They're excited about what it represents in terms of her preparation for next season. Fans want to see her come back better than ever, completely dominate the league, and prove that last year's struggles were just growing pains, not some kind of ceiling on her potential. That kind of fan investment is super valuable, but it also creates immense pressure that can be totally overwhelming if it's not managed properly. Some players in the league are probably watching all this attention and feeling completely frustrated. Angel Reese put up solid numbers as a rookie and had her own endorsement deals, but the gap between her visibility and Caitlyn's is just massive. That's simply market reality. Caitlyn generates more attention, sells more merchandise, and drives more viewership than anyone else in the league. It's not necessarily fair, but it's exactly how sports marketing works. The most marketable players get the most opportunities, and that naturally creates disparities that can breed resentment. The question of whether Caitlyn has made enough money to never work again is interesting, but probably premature. Yes, her endorsement deals have made her millions, but lifestyle inflation is absolutely real. Taxes take a huge chunk, and $10 million isn't as much as it sounds when you're planning for 50+ years of life after basketball. She's set up incredibly well financially, but she's not at never work again money yet, unless she's incredibly disciplined with how she manages what she's earned. That's why continuing to maximize earnings during her playing career makes complete sense, even if it complicates her rest and recovery situation. The broader conversation this raises is about what the WNBA offseason should look like for star players. Should they be grinding year-round to maximize their potential and earning opportunities? Or should they be prioritizing rest and recovery to ensure long-term health and performance? The answer is probably somewhere right in the middle, but finding that perfect balance is totally different for every single player. What works for a veteran who's been managing their body for 10 years might not work for someone in their second season who's still learning what their body needs. Caitlyn Clark's offseason is proving that being the face of women's basketball means the work literally never stops, and finding that crucial balance between cashing checks and staying healthy is going to define her career moving forward. And hey, if you want to keep up with all the behind-the-scenes stuff happening in women's basketball, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're covering absolutely everything the mainstream media glosses over.